Freddy Fazbear is in the Epstein files. Okay, we're going to be doing some reading today, but apparently that's true, and that's fucking crazy. Anyway, I've been doing some reading for the last a little bit of time to improve my ability to articulate what I'm saying. I'm currently reading a book about game design because I'm a passionate little motherfucker about game design. Pardon me, I still have a cough. I have gotten myself some more cough stuff to hopefully amend it. There we are. Also, I'm using this as a practice to actually do reading as part of like what I do with my life, because I think there's so much good stuff that you can get from books, and in order for my brain to remain nice and malleable, nice and pliable, I feel that reading is the outlet that I need to cultivate in order to do that. Fortunately, I've not had any issues integrating reading into my routine. It's happened very naturally. Of course, if I ever want to do game design, that will actually need to be something that I practice, and that's maybe the next step, and there's a bit more friction with that. But for right now, reading works. So let's go into some reading. Today we're going to be reading for 40 minutes because I missed a few days, so I'm making this up now. So that's what we're going to be doing. We are currently, so it's currently Sunday the 1st of February. Time is 5:37. We're going to be reading for 40 minutes. Let's go. So, last we left off, we were looking at some case studies for some games, and specifically that was related to exploring the mechanics of games. So we looked at a game called Ooblets, which is like a farming, creature collecting, town life sim. We looked at Inscription, which is like a deck building, card battler, escape room. And then now we're going on to case study 3, which is a game called Thronefall. My partner, by the way, loved Inscription. She played it a lot. Thronefall describes itself as case study number 3, Thronefall. Thronefall describes itself as a minimalist game about building and defending your little kingdom. It's a tower defense game that balances strategy and action and allows the player to have a lot of agency of choice. The controls are quite minimalist and the levels are quite simple. The core mechanics in Thronefall are base building. Players construct a base around a central castle, choosing from defensive structures like walls, towers, and traps. Players have to decide whether to focus on defense or economy, such as investing in farms or marketplaces for income. Combat and action gameplay. Players control a mounted hero who actively participates in battles, dealing damage and rallying defenses. The supporting mechanics in Thronefall are resource management. Gold is earned each night from structures and is used to build or upgrade defenses. Players have to balance spending immediately versus saving for long-term improvements. Upgrade system. Between waves, players can upgrade their hero, weapons or buildings. Upgrades allow for flexible playstyles, such as focusing on ranged attacks, fortifying walls, or increasing income generation. Wave system. Enemies attack in waves with increasing difficulty. Players must anticipate enemy paths and adjust their strategy accordingly. The rules and interactions in Thronefall are day-night cycle. Days are for planning and building, and nights are for defending against waves of enemies. Player-enemy interaction. Enemy behavior is predictable but varied, encouraging players to learn patterns and optimize their defenses. The hero's ability to directly engage enemies adds an element of risk-reward because overextending can leave the base vulnerable. The feedback systems in Thronefall are immediate feedback. Building placements are virtually intuitive, with clear indicators for range and effectiveness. Combat actions feel satisfying, though impactful animations, sound effects, and damage numbers. Progression feedback. After each wave, players are rewarded with gold and unlock options for new upgrades, creating a sense of accomplishment. Enemy types and difficulty gradually evolve, signaling progress and keeping the game challenging. The progress systems in Thronefall are scaling difficulty. Each level introduces tougher enemies and more complex wave patterns, requiring players to adapt their strategies. Meta progression. Unlockable maps and upgrades provide long-term goals and replay value. Players can revisit earlier maps with new strategies to get new achievements. Thronefall is a good balance between accessibility and depth, offering simple controls that are easy to grasp while providing a variety of upgrades, strategies, and enemy types to challenge players and ensure replayability. Thronefall provides a minimalist yet polished approach. Thronefall proves that a minimalist yet polished approach can deliver a highly engaging and very replayable experience. Okay, we're going to be moving on to chapter 7, but I just want to put Thronefall just on here because I want to have a look at it later. So we'll just pop that there. Awesome. So, chapter 7, Understanding Game Systems. And look at that, we are well over a third of the way into our book. Discovering what game systems are. So in this chapter, discovering what game systems are, learning how to make game systems, knowing how game systems affect players, getting into game economies. A game system is a set of rules that makes a game work. It's how everything in the game fits together, like how you move, what happens when you win or lose, how you level up, and how things change as you play. These rules aren't directly controlled by the player and are behind the scenes to define the game's world and interactions. A great way to visualize game systems is by making interactive diagrams to show how the systems interact with each other. These are charts that show how all the systems work together and what the results are. I go over some of the tools to make diagrams and charts in chapter 5. Core elements of game systems. Game systems are usually full of data and are either stored in the game locally or loaded from a server at runtime. Runtime. What is runtime? I want to have a look. Runtime. Runtime. A runtime system. So using Wikipedia, in computer programming, a runtime system, or just runtime, is a subsystem that exists in the computer where a program is created as well as in the computers where the program is intended to be run. Okay, in the computer where the program is created as well as in, yep. The name comes from the complete time and runtime division from the compiled languages, which similarly distinguishes the computer processes involved in the creation of a program. Okay. Overview. Every programming language sacrifices an execution model and may implement at least part of that model in a runtime system. Possible definition of a runtime system behavior, among others, is any behavior not directly attributed to the program itself. This definition includes putting parameters onto the stack before function calls, parallel execution of related behaviors. Okay, all things which mean nothing to me. But let's see if I can gather something else. So, runtime. Game systems, a core element of game systems. Game systems are usually full of data and are either stored in the game locally or loaded from a server at runtime. I'm not sure what it means by at runtime though. Maybe at like, I'm not sure, the amount of time. Okay, at runtime. So runtime being a noun, the amount of time it takes for a computer program to perform a task, or the time at which a computer begins a task. Okay, so at runtime means the amount of time the computer takes to compute whatever it is that it's doing. So that could be either locally as part of the actual game itself, so like the files on your computer, or the files that are stored in the cloud and then accessing that cloud or that server to get those files to perform. Okay, got it. See, there we go. And you know what we didn't do? We didn't ask AI. Fuck AI. Seriously though, fuck AI. Moving on. Here's a simple example of a combat system and the information that may be stored in it. Cool. Turn order, determined by the character's speed, SPD stat. Highest speed acts first. Damage calculation. Physical attack, damage equals attack plus power minus defense. Magic attack. Damage equals MP plus power minus MR. That's interesting, using MP as the attack stat. That would be really, that's actually, I've never thought about that. That's actually very funny. Status effects track active effects like burn or stun and their remaining duration. Victory condition. Combat ends when one side's team HP is reduced to 0. Now you'll also need to include items that can be used in that combat system, like healing potions or weapons. Weapon name, flaming sword. Weapon type, physical. Power, 15. Description. A sword engulfed in flames that increase base attack damage. It has a chance to inflict burn effect on the opponent, causing additional damage over time. Special effects, burn chance. 20% chance to apply a burn to the enemy, dealing 5 damage per turn for 3 turns. Nice. So it's got the name, the type of damage it deals, its power for the allocation of power into the physical attack damage calculation. It's got a flavor description and then a special effect description with parameters for chance, for damage, and for duration. This can get pretty complicated as you have hundreds of items. You have to manage that information, keep it updated, and make it work with other systems like character or spell systems, and test and balance it out so that nothing is overpowered or is meaningless. This is one of the most fun parts of making games, to me at least. A common example of a game system... Oh my gosh. Pardon me. A common example of a game system component is leveling. Say you're catching and collecting creatures while exploring a map. You can battle these creatures with each other, and as they level up, you also level up and your player experience, allowing you to unlock new features, items, and maybe even new quests. Another example of a gameplay system is an inventory. Imagine you have a farm you've inherited from your grandpa, and the farm is barren when you arrive. You may need to collect seeds, craft items, to water plants, or collect resources from the world. Your bag may be too small in the beginning, but you can go into the village and buy a bigger one from the shop. These are some of the rules and variables associated with an inventory system. The main elements of a game system are what a player can do. For a farm game, player actions may be farming, fishing, mining, and talking to villagers. These are the main activities that keep the game moving. Resources. Things you collect like crops, fish, wood, and minerals. Maybe you use these items to make progress, either by selling them or using them to craft new items. Stats and variables. These can be energy, health, money, skill levels, like the farming or fishing, or relationships with NPCs, non-playable characters. These variables may improve as you play and help you unlock more things. Progression. Progression involves variables that change over time, like level up systems, growing crops on a farm, or building friendships with NPCs. Feedback loops. These are the rewards you get from progressing through the game, like making money from crops to buy better seeds, or when the challenges, like running out of energy, make you plan your gaming strategies better. Tip. I find that one of the best ways to understand how to structure a game system is to break down game systems from my favorite games and study how they architected them. Sorry, hyphenated on like a sentence end. Creating charts and spreadsheets are a great way to start analyzing your favorite game systems. When they say architected them, I just want to have a look, because architect is like, a design profession. So, architect. Architect is a person whose job it is to design new buildings, making sure they are built correctly. Okay, so then to architect something as like an adjective describing it, I suppose are they using it as an adjective? I don't actually, where does it go? Over here. Architect them. Okay, so, architect being the person who designs is how did that person design a system, for instance. Cool. Again, some of these things you may think, well, why is he looking up what an architect is? Listen, I've never actually looked up what an architect is. There's no reason not to. I don't think that there's any point in being ashamed of looking up things that are like more common knowledge, because what if you just want to clarify something? I think that if you're always going to think, well, I can't look things up that I should know, you're going to preemptively shame yourself for thinking that you know something. And I don't think that's very useful. I think shame is a very underexplored emotion to address, and I actually find that the areas you think you'd find shame, you often find clarity instead. And the shame is actually only through other people and their response to the way that you conduct yourself. So for instance, me looking up what architect means doesn't mean I don't know what architect means. It just means I want to be clear on what it means. Someone may respond by saying, well, if you should, oh, he has to look up what architect means. Like, that's embarrassing. And they're shaming in that instance. But usually, someone's reactions, especially if they're negative, come from a place of seeing something that they don't like that resonates within themselves. And that's a really important lesson for you, is that if someone is replying in a negative capacity to you, it's usually not personal to you. It's usually that you've done something that they have reacted negatively to, that they are ashamed of in themselves, and they need to use you as a conduit of bullying themselves, because that's a whole feedback system, and they just haven't done the work yet. So I feel no shame in looking up what an architect means. I do feel a bit of hesitance to do it sometimes, as I'm still getting used to this kind of interaction, but there is no shame. I will not be ashamed of looking up things that I could know the definition to. Not that I should, but that I could know the definition to. Because clarity is cool. So is consent. Defining the foundation of game systems. When figuring out what to include in your game system, write down the variables you plan to include, like experience points, health, energy, or inventory size, and then focus on how they'll work together to push the player through the game. Think of how these variables will change over time or interact with other game mechanics so that players will feel a sense of accomplishment over time. You can see an example of this in Figure 7.1, which is a spreadsheet showing progression from level to level and some associated parameters. So it looks like we've got something called a base match rate. I want to actually look up if that is anything. Base match rate. It's just bringing up like mortgages. I don't think that's... Let's see if I can intuit what it is, because it's got a lot of things with like decimals. Level, okay. Cost, that's experience. Item name. Start a fundraiser, runs ads on social, email 100 influencers, call, pitch, and DMs, lie about your product. What the fuck is this? Lie about your product? Start a newsletter, hop on a trend. Okay. Money bonus. That's a real fucking weird spreadsheet. One of these parameters is host a giant party on an island? What? I shit you not, the very last one, I don't know what this fucking figure is trying to... I thought this was going to be game systems. There's like level 1 to 21, and it has a base match rate, cost. The cost goes from 0 up to 2726, has a bunch of item names, and then a money bonus. And the money bonus does not look like it follows any particular pattern, but the last one is host a giant party on an island. What are we talking about right now? I assume it's poking fun, but holy fuck. By the way, I heard that multiple millions of more documents of the Epstein files got released. That's fucking crazy. Obviously, that's what I meant by the Freddy Fazbear thing. Also, Elon Musk's in there. Oof, crazy. Remember a time when he was supposed to be like the Tony Stark of our world? And then he just became a pedophile and a fascist. Oh my gosh. What a crazy pipeline. A good system design defines the following. Yeah, man, when he fucking did a Nazi salute, that was crazy. He should be put to death for that. A good system design defines the following. The core elements, I shouldn't say that. I'm sorry, this is getting political. I apologize. But my views on who should is a bad word, could continue enjoying the privileges of being alive and who could not, have shifted a little bit. I used to be of the opinion that all life was sacred, but now I feel a bit not narcissistic, pessimistic about the idea that an entire world government, probably the biggest world government, is run by pedophiles and their pedophile associates. That's a little worrying to me. Like, I don't see any reason for them not to be put to death, is what I'm saying. This is a very strange conversation, isn't it? I apologize. I don't know where I'm going with this. I'm going to stop talking about the Epstein files in this video. Holy moly. Okay, a good system design defines the following: the core elements or objects in the system, how the elements are connected, their relationships, and their inputs and outputs, the purpose of the system. When we were designing Grift, we knew we wanted to give players the sense of progression by unlocking new accessories as they reached higher levels. They could then use those accessories to add new stats to their bots, non-playable characters in the game that you create, and make them look cooler and more unique. As players met and chatted with new NPCs, they'd earn experience points and money, which not only helped them level up, but also unlock new accessories they could buy with the currency they accumulated. This system of rewarding playtime and offering new items kept players coming back to see what they could unlock next. Ask yourself these questions when designing a game system. What are the actions players are doing? Are they farming, collecting, engaging in combat? What are the main variables? What are the actions players are doing? Are they farming, collecting, or engaging in combat? What are the main variables like stats, items, or resources, or currencies within these actions? Didn't need to have items or resources or currencies. That just feels a bit weird. Just like stats, items, resources, or currencies within these actions. Yeah, what are the main variables like stats, items, or resources, or currencies within these actions? That just feels a bit weird. Which milestones are players working toward, and will they get a reward when they get to the milestone? When a player makes a choice, what feedback do they get? What friction is there to a player progressing to the next steps? What challenges will they face? How does a system relate to the narrative? What should players feel at each step of the way? How does the system interact with other systems? Tip: I always push to keep games simple. For every feature or extra thing you add to a game, it's important to make it meaningful and to think through these questions. Doing this takes time, and it's always been helpful for me to map these things out. You not only need to think about what individual features do on their own, but also how they interact with each other. Making games work with rules and systems. Actually, I really want to make a point about that. That tip about how they interact with each other, I want to use Devil May Cry 5 specifically, because it's the only one I've played, as a great example, because each of the characters in that game have such complex individual systems. However, by the nature of a combo system, that's just normal. But the way that each of their unique abilities integrate is so fascinating from like a game design perspective, as someone who's a complete absolute novice at looking at it. The way that just Dante has 4 different styles, which each interact with 6 different weapons, which each interact with an entire skill tree, which each interact with button presses, button holds, combinations of button presses, camera angle, all of those things are variables that they're talking about here. Each one was chosen, deliberate, and intentional. Things like hit stun, stagger, ragdoll, all of that is stuff that is varied by the input. It's wow, man, that's, and then you have 4 different characters. That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. Making games work with rules and systems. Let's just see what the time is. Cool, we've been going for... Oop, I missed a call from my partner. Let me just pause the timer for a second. Will in 20. Just... Cool. All right, and then we'll go back to it. So, got about 17 minutes left, so I'll keep going. Making games work with rules and systems. Just like in real life, rules and systems need constraints for players to feel challenged. Think of going to school. Every year you make progress with the end goal, of graduating. It can feel really good to finally accomplish that and look back on all the milestones you completed. Sometimes you even get extra rewards each step of the way. That's such an American perspective. That never happens. I've never looked back on the things I've done throughout the year and felt accomplished. They all felt like tasks that I just had to do with my time at the school. It's such an American way of seeing things. That's so bizarre. What the hell? Extra awards? This extra credit shit I never really understood either. These rules shape what players can or can't do in the game. A cooldown for an attack may keep you from spamming that option, or a time-limited boss event may make you think about optimizing your attacks in the time you're given. Strategizing around a game's system in this way can lead players to mastering your game. If you give them enough information, they can learn what works and what doesn't along the way. Here are some examples in action. Energy systems. In RPGs, Here are some examples in action. Energy systems in RPGs limit players' actions per turn, forcing players to end for the day or make choices about what they want to do with the energy they have. Inventory systems. In survival games, put caps on how many items players can carry, making players choose between resources to keep and discard. It makes you think about immediate need and long-term survival. Cooldowns. In action games, prevent continuous use of powerful abilities, encouraging players to find the right timing and combination of skills. Morality systems. Record players' choices, changing the outcome of the story. This can record players' choices, changing the outcome. Morality systems record players' choices, changing the outcome of the story. I don't know why, but for each of these bold letters, I always feel like there's a colon, start new sentence. There isn't. They're all just part of the sentence. Some of them are just worded with bold writing. Morality systems record players' choices, changing the outcome of the story. This can mean the difference in an ending, giving choices way more meaning. Crafting systems. Let players combine items to make new ones. It encourages exploration to find new resources and gives purpose to the items. Using system design principles. That's me. Woo! Game design principles are useful to refer to when designing any part of a game. You'll have specific ones for your game based on your genre or gameplay. The following are generally recommended for game designers, so consider these when building your systems. Design your games around a core mechanic. Set clear goals and objectives. Offer feedback and rewards. See, I'm trying to think, what is a core mechanic? I'm thinking that's singular, but if I'm being very critical, what is a core mechanic? Is it leveling? Is it exploration? That feels a bit strange. I feel like Minecraft's a good idea. Let me try and think on this. Let me use 3 game examples. What's Minecraft's core game mechanic? Sandbox stuff, right? Sandbox stuff. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. What about Marvel Rivals? Because I've been playing that recently. What is Marvel Rivals' core game mechanic? It's team-based hero battles, which is still a broad, multifaceted mechanic. It's not like one thing. What about Elden Ring Night Rain? Elden Ring Night Rain's core game mechanic is acquiring power to defeat enemies. Okay, yeah, I got it. So it's not like a core game mechanic is leveling. I think that core game mechanic is like a bit of prose. You're kind of flowering up what the idea is. I think that makes sense. Okay, so still looking at more design principles. Make sure you can scale or add to it over time. Okay, so your systems. Balancing your systems through testing and iteration to avoid overpowered or underpowered elements. Ensure that the game is easy to play, hard to master. The system may be complicated and deep, but it should feel simple to a casual user. I don't agree with that. I think some games should be easy to play and easy to master, have just a low barrier to entry. But also some games should be hard to play, hard to master. I don't think you can make a game that's hard to play easy to master. I'm not sure if that's how it works, but I think there should be games which are not easy to play and not hard to master. That doesn't mean I think that games should be easy to master, but I think that there is a time and a place for games to be easy to play and easy to master, and also easy to play, hard to master, and also hard to play, hard to master. And I don't think there's a reality in which things are hard to play and easy to master. Yeah, I think that's fair. Link actions, hunting, foraging, flying, in a game to fulfill a fantasy for the user. Adapt to player choices, skill levels, and evolving playstyles, allowing for a dynamic experience. Progression systems. Progression systems are all over the place in games. A well-known progression system includes a leveling structure, but there's a place for progression in many systems. If you want to encourage longer play and a sense of progress throughout time, okay. But there's a place for progression in many systems if you want to encourage longer play and a sense of progress throughout time, not progression. A sense of progress throughout time. In our game, Garden Walk, so I guess that's the company, players plant a seed in a garden and walk to grow it. I've included a spreadsheet example in Figure 7.2. The phone tracks the steps, and each step counts towards the progress of the plant. That's a super simple example of a progression system, but they can get much more complex. So a simple spreadsheet showing the progress from level to level. So we've got the ID of different plants. We've got asset name, which is like flower 1 to 8. We've got species. Okay. We've got steps to seedling, steps to teen, steps to mature, steps to breed, steps to wither, drop frequency. Cool. Progression systems are useful for these reasons. They give players a sense of accomplishment. Dopamine is a very effective motivator. And I'm just going to check. I know dopamine is a hormone released by the body, but I want to know a little bit more. It's a neurotransmitter made in your brain known as a feel-good chemical. Okay, so why is dopamine released? Like, what causes the release of dopamine? Why is dopamine released? Is there a... So as its role, what is dopamine? So it's a neurotransmitter. Okay. Yeah, it's not telling me why it's released. I assumed it's probably always being released as opposed to it gets released, but I just want to see if I can find something. Okay, there's a bit on foods here. Let's read this. Dopamine, so neurons in the region at the base of the brain produce dopamine by two separate processes. First, an amino acid, triosine, is converted into another amino acid called L-dopa. L-dopa undergoes another change as enzymes turn into dopamine. Too little dopamine causes the stiff movements. Oh, okay. Lack of serotonin, yeah. Okay. That does not tell me why it's released. Tell me what it does. It's a neurotransmitter, it makes us feel good. Yeah, it's the feel-good hormone. Okay. What does dopamine do? It's a chemical messenger, so a neurotransmitter. Transmits signals in the brain's nerve cells to the rest of our bodies, produces several areas of the brain. Yeah. made in two places, the brain's hypothalamus and the adrenal glands. Okay. Reward play. Central brain reward system. Okay, so it is released when we experience something pleasurable. That's what I was looking for. I wanted to make sure. I didn't know. It motivates us to take action, obtain something desirable. Okay. Mood regulation. Attention and focus. So improves cognitive function. Improves cognitive function. Movement. Essential for coordinating smooth. Okay, yeah. So dopamine is essential for coordinating smooth, controlled movements. And a deficiency of that can cause disorders such as Parkinson's disease. So yeah, it looks like dopamine isn't necessarily something that is like, it's always being, no, it isn't something that is necessarily switch on, switch off. It is always being released. However, rewards or pleasure or things of that nature can release more dopamine, which can make you feel good. There we go. We have a little bit more context now. Let's have a see what that means. So that could mean give players a sense, so progression systems are useful for these reasons. They give players a sense of accomplishment. Dopamine is a very effective motivator. So the accomplishment makes us feel good or feel fulfilled. Therefore, dopamine is released, which allows us to feel more motivated. Because we know that higher levels of dopamine increase motivation. Got it. See, and now it makes sense. I didn't just read it, like I now intuit it. I understand the reasons why. They also give players reasons to keep playing for achievements and clear goals. So that's progression systems. Progression systems also give players reasons to keep playing for achievements and clear goals. Narrative progression can unlock new story elements or character developments alongside their gameplay achievements. It offers long-term play by offering challenges and rewards along the way, preventing the game from becoming stale or repetitive. In multiplayer games, it can offer competition or progression by having players compare achievements and progress. Even if you don't show the progression in the user interface, it can be helpful as a design tool for yourself. If you design the gameplay, it helps you understand what you want your players to be doing from day to day or week to week, and enables you to align your feature unlocks to player's progress. Even if you don't show the progression in the user interface, it can be helpful as a design tool for yourself as you design the gameplay. It helps you understand what you want players to be doing from day to day or week to week, and enables you to align your feature unlocks to players' progress. Enables you to align your feature unlocks. It helps you understand what you want your players to be doing from day to day or week to week, and enables you to align your feature unlocks to players' progress. It enables you to align your feature unlocks to players' progress. There we go. For each week or level, write out the behaviors you want your players to exhibit. What are they thinking, feeling, doing? Are they mastering a skill or collecting something? Are they interacting with the community to help teach them about how to solve a puzzle? Structuring leveling systems. A leveling system is a game mechanic that tracks players' progress and growth, typically through experience points, or some other form of XP, or some other form of accrued points. It is intended to motivate players towards a long-term goal in a game. Leveling must feel valuable in the gameplay, and it needs to have meaning. Rewards are helpful here, like when a player reaches a certain level, they can unlock a new area, a new feature, or a new resource. Here are some of the elements of leveling systems. Experience points, XP. Players earn XP by completing tasks, defeating enemies, or achieving objectives. Levels. Each level represents a stage of progression. Players may get new items or unlock new features, or the game may take on a completely different feeling over time. Progression curves. Leveling systems often use different mathematical models like linear or logarithmic curves to determine how much XP is needed to reach each subsequent level. So I know what linear means. It means the amount of something you have, the amount it increases by the same amount. But what does logarithmic mean? Logarithmic. Logarithm. Okay. In mathematics, the logarithm of a number is an exponent by which another fixed value, the base, must be raised to produce that number. Okay, so it's exponential curves, which is to say that the more of something you have, the drastically more of the other thing is required in order for that thing to be represented, for instance. Cool. I had a feeling that was the case, but just wanted to check. Or at least that's what I interpret by what I saw, not necessarily what I read. Okay, we've got 2 minutes left. So, let's see here. We will keep reading these last 2 minutes. Progression curves. Leveling systems often use different mathematical models like linear and logarithmic curves to determine how much XP is needed to reach each subsequent level. Rewards. Leveling up often comes with rewards, such as new gear, abilities, or cosmetic items. Skill trees. Some games have branching skill trees that give players the choice to customize their characters or gameplay. Technical stuff. Creating a logarithmic curve, like the one in Figure 7.3 in Google Sheets, is simple. Don't use Google Sheets. It has AI and it will scrape all of your work and feed it to an AI generative model, and then it will steal your work. Don't do it. You set up your data like so in column A. Just enter your I values like 1, 2, and 3. Then in column B, you can calculate your I values using the formula equals log brackets A2 to find the natural logarithm of those I values. When your data is all set, highlight both columns and go for Insert Chart. You can choose a scatter plot or smooth line chart to see how your data looks over time. So this is Figure 7.3 is a logarithmic curve for leveling made in Google Sheets. So you've got player level and then 52 weeks plotted out, and it shows like how it's supposed to progress up here. Okay. Remember, as you're designing a leveling system, ask yourself, do players feel like they are working towards their long-term goals? A leveling system should challenge players and reward them throughout their progress. This helps players feel purpose while they are playing a game. Tip, for each level in your system, write down what players think, feel, and do at each stage. This can help you prioritize features and content for each phase of the game. Creating reward structures. Reward structures are there we go. Alarm has gone. We will go for the reward structures in the next video. So yeah, that's that. We are leaving off right there on page 106. We're doing really well here. So thank you all so much for watching. This has been a really fun practice for me, learning to articulate myself better. I'm still kind of making the same mistakes, but the more I do it, the better I'm going to get at it. So that's really, really awesome for me. In any case, stay safe, look after yourself, and I'll see you soon.